9:45 on North Dakota Today. You know, there was a time in the early 1900s, this is unbelievable, when women could legally be put in an insane asylum that is, at the request of their husbands just because they're going through menopause.
That's
Can you
right.
believe that?
No, but that is the basis for a new book. It is called The Change. The author of the book, Deanne Smith, is here this morning to talk about that. Now, obviously, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What gave you the idea for the research for this book?
When I was in my 20s, I heard about there were 14 women in the little town that I grew up in, the county, in eastern Montana, this had happened to them. Their husbands had them arrested, put on trial, sentenced to the insane asylums.
The husbands claimed what? That they were insane?
That they were insane. And so when I decided to write a book, I decided to do more research about that time, and I found out that menopause actually was listed as a reason for insanity, the cause of insanity back then.
Was this 14 women from the same town?
From the same small community, Webo, Montana.
Wow, about the same time?
Yes, all in the
Amazing.
course of from December of 1914 through the year 1919. All 14 of them.
This is based on fact. This is historical record.
Yes.
And it was a huge deal back. It really rocked that little town at the time, right?
It should have.
I
I don't know if it did or not, but
Wow,
I
mean
would
that's
think that it would, yeah.
okay. So what was in your research? What did you find was the basis for this? I mean, women going through menopause maybe get a little bit emotional, that
How
sort of
could
thing.
that be interpreted as insane?
I don't know.
Okay,
Or is it just convenient? A doctor who was helping with
I think perhaps there was a little bit of corruption going on.
how to get rid of the wife you no longer want?
Correct. The records show things such as a few of them were married, remarried shortly after they had their wives committed.
They just wanted to get rid of the first wife so they could get maybe a second younger wife or something like that?
That's what I would assume.
Yeah.
But
The
I'm just
old-fashioned
making
trophy
assumptions.
wife.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
So what happens to the women after they go to the asylum?
That I never was able to find out. I tried to further the research and tried to go and find out what happened to them, and I wasn't able to. I actually have copies of 2 of the court transcripts. The other ones I wasn't able to see. I took the names of the 2 women whose transcripts I had seen and tried to find out what had actually happened to them. Did they pass away in the asylum, or what exactly happened?
Right.
But you need birth dates, you need social security numbers, something of that nature in order to further, and I didn't, so I decided to write the book as fiction. I wanted their voices to be heard, but I wanted them to have a happy ending, and I wanted, so I made up a protagonist who helps them.
This is called historical fiction.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it isn't. So when you have to use obviously a lot of your imagination, as novelists do, when you base a book on fact, but you fictionalize it. But that's, I think, the question in everybody's mind: do these women, are they committed for life, or did they get out?
Correct. As I was writing the book, I found out more and more people from. There were women in North Dakota that were sent to Jamestown. There were other women in other parts of Montana that were also sent to Warm Springs. I don't know that the numbers were 14 from one small county.
But this sounds like it was a widespread sort of thing.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And for the most part, the family members that I heard that a woman in their family had this happen to them, they spent their life in the insane asylum.
And I can't imagine that those were pleasant places back then.
No.
All right.
Okay.
Not by my research anyway.
All right. We'll take a quick break on North Dakota Today, and we'll be back with more of The Change.
Welcome back at 9:52. We are visiting with Deanne Smith on her book, The Change, which of course we're talking about that change of life that every woman goes through. But there was a time in our history when that made a woman vulnerable because her husband could have her committed, which is kind of and it actually did happen. That's the scary thing. Now, where do we find your book?
Okay, you can find it on Amazon.com in paperback and for Kindle, BarnesandNoble.com for Nook, and also I live in Glendive, Montana, and at the newspaper office, the Ranger Review newspaper office there. I'm doing a book signing next Wednesday in Webo, where the book takes place, although the town's name has changed, and then a book signing in Glendive the following day, and I'll have books available at both of those.
You mentioned during the break it took you 7 years to write this book.
7 years, Of course, I was working, and
Right, you have to kind of try to find your times.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to know what the people of Webo have to say about it. Have they talked to you about it?
Yes, they're very receptive to it. They're excited that the story is being told, and that's what I wanted most of all, was the story to be told. And most people aren't aware of it, of the fact that this happened.
Well, you certainly caught our attention when you presented this to us. We went, really?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Now, again, it's The Change, Deanne Smith, and it's available on Amazon Kindle. And you're going to want to pick it up, give it a read. So.
All right, we'll be back with more North Dakota Today in just a minute.